Hey guys, Chelsea Kenyon here, www.chelseakenyon.com, and I want to share with you a little bit of network marketing advice, but it's a little bit kind of maybe different than some other things that you might have heard before. And it all really stems around a personal experience that I had having to do with boats. So yes, I somehow am going to tie in boats with some network marketing advice. So let's just get right down to it. Okay, so I used to go to Lake Havasu all the time over the summer. We had our family boat, and I was getting very stressed out. We had it was a boat that was very low to the water. So as you would hit the wakes, it was like very jarring, oh, hold on, especially on a windy day or a day when there was just a lot of, activity on the lake. And sometimes we would catch air. It was pretty crazy. So, I would get very, very stressed out. At the time, I had two very small children, and I had visions of the children flying out of the boat and me having to dive in after them, or them slamming their head. Of course, as a mom, I just thought worst case scenario. And so over the years, I got more stressed out with every single one of these boat trips. And we would make several boat trips over the summer, maybe 3 or 4. And after a couple years of this, I was to the point where I was so stressed out when we started hitting a little bit of choppiness that I would become so rigid because I was so stressed out to where I think I was so rigid that the boat was like hitting me and I was just so stiff. And I would come back to the house, I'd have bruises all over my arms. I would be in physical pain as if, how when you haven't worked out in a while and then you go work out in the next couple days, you're just like, oh my gosh, because you can feel the burn. Well, that's how I felt. I felt like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just exercised for 20 hours straight because I was so tense on these trips. So then I was like thinking to myself, why doesn't anybody else have this issue? I'm the only one that is having these issues of being sore and it hurting, and I'd be, every time the boat would hit, I'd be like, it was horrible. And I looked around and the kids were having a great time. They looked like pieces of popcorn. They were fine. They were, they weren't catching major air. They were maybe lifting maybe an inch off the seat, but in mom's eyes, of course, I'm envisioning them flying 40 feet into the air, right? So I just one day thought to myself, what is the difference here? Why am I in extreme, stressful, painful state, literally to where I'm coming home with bruises on my body, and the kids are bouncing around like happy little pieces of popcorn, and even when my friends come on the boat, they're very just like relaxed, and they're like, woo! So what the heck is going on? Why is this boat ride painful for me? And I realized that it's because of my own fears, of my own irrational fears. I had begun to tense up so much and I was rigid and I was no longer going with the flow. And as soon as I had that moment, I kind of had that aha, like, oh my gosh, kind of moment. So the next day we got on the boat and I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, we're just going to relax. And I just sat there, and yeah, it was a little uncomfortable at times because your body is kind of flying around an open boat, but it was 120 times more enjoyable. I was no longer letting myself become overly concerned with these things that I really had no control over, for number one. And for number two, when you're flexible and you go with the flow, it's so much more painless. And so that's it. You can choose how you're going to live your life. You can either be rigid and stubborn and things are going to be painful to you because you're not moving. You're not going with the flow. You're more like a rock in the middle of the river, and the river's moving and flowing around you and going places, doing things. And you're just that rock in the middle of the river, not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here. And that's got to be painful, right? After a while, the rock even starts wearing away because that persistence of the water continually moving past it. So we need to be more like the river. You need to be flexible. Go with the flow. If something's a little uncomfortable, I promise you it's going to be a lot less uncomfortable if you go with the flow than if you try to constantly fight everything. So, lesson learned for me. Anytime I start to feel kind of just that, whatever it is, life, business, whatever, when I start to feel that little, that little tension coming in, I remind myself, boat, river, water, go with the flow. It will be a lot less uncomfortable. If something's going to be uncomfortable, you're only going to make it worse if you stiffen up and you fight it. So be flexible. Just let it go. Just let it go and be flexible and be ready for whatever comes your way. Do not be the stiff, rigid rock that doesn't move and is stubborn and is just like, I'm not going anywhere. Because guess what? The water is going to wear you down anyways, period. You have no control over that. So since the water is going to wear you down anyways, you might as well just be in the water and just go. Just go with it, you know? Who cares? Yeah, something could happen, but why are we going to waste our time assuming or worrying about things that haven't even happened yet? Total waste of time there too, okay? So anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys, because that's something that I draw on often. You know, when things start to get a little rough and I start to get a little uncomfortable and I have that tendency, that urge to want to stiffen up and fight it, I don't. I go, you know what? Relax and go with it. Go with the flow and figure out how to keep up with everything. Seriously, when you guys start doing this, if you're one of those types to kind of stiffen up and fight it, if you can just learn to breathe through it, flow with it, it's going to go so much better. You know, even a negative situation, it's going to be more negative if you fight it. So make it a little bit less negative by just going with the flow. Okay? So anyways, I hope that helps you guys. I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of insight and just another creative way that you can kind of turn things around for yourself, especially if you're having kind of a bummer day and things aren't going your way. You know, always remember, go with the flow. Just go with it. So much easier that way, okay? All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.